it doesn't hurt to speculate for a minute about something. I don't know how many of these are usable or what we're gonna do with all these videos, but we could speculate about something because it's the kind of thing that like when we look into like what there's that when we look at like what the way in which people are being made aware of like the of what's happening to our planet is there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's all very frightening to people who, like, didn't know about that. But also, like, the thing that look, some of these like documentaries to see like what are they, in what way are they making people aware of this? That like they it something is always missing, and this is how we over here sort of fill it in because it's like okay, look. By the way, simply to say like it's sort of. I mean, look, I know human nature is evil, but I mean, wait a minute. I mean, one of the things that we'd like to speculate about, maybe it's inaccurate or whatever. But when all these, it was when okay, look, and when Vivendi and Nestle and all these people like who claim that their thing that they're gonna provide, that they're gonna provide water for all the places where there's a shortage of water that's reached the point where the death toll is in the millions and people are drinking that they drink dirty water. Okay, this sort of like it would appear from some of the operation of the water, the sort of transnational water. Actually, I think a lot of them are based in France or something. But there's like a kind of water consortium that sort of is not only claiming that like they know how to, they have they're in the sector where they can provide water, but that requires full privatization, and they're doing these things, and then they're also involved in trading water futures, and it's a commodity, and this all sort of. But the way it's described, I mean, the way it's described, you say, well, wait, how can they do it? I mean, how can they do what they're doing in places where people are dying of thirst? And one of the things is like. She could do like if I knew how to do research on things, like look into something about that industry. Like, did it come up with these ideas about like they do come? You see, they claim that it was when this agro sector that we've said is a perfect example of the with it's a brand new kind of capital formation that exists in apparently like a society where the entire actual physical economy that would be private, like that would be business, is shut down, and that everything has escaped into doing finance activity transnationally, and this new kind of capital formation is here though that is the way they operate in the growing of crops and such has depleted the water that fast that water shortage arrives like in a way where like it's some kind of dark age. Did all these corporations like who think they have the solution, and the solution is like to privatize it and to trade water futures and to like in that water itself is a commodity. I mean, did the conception of that come from the fact that they? I'm just asking by what means this happened. Like, when it became clear that this industrial agro entity is depleting the water faster than the hydrological cycle can replace it, and that millions and millions of people have no water to drink, and that's a crisis, that they responded to that. That the way they're operating is simply. Right, it would be if you right like what? Oh, I see. Like there's the gigantic agro sector has done something where no one has any clean water to drink. What logical conclusion could we draw? Well, we have the technology to see if we could like come in and offer to handle this for them privatize it and start trading water futures and doing all these kind of things? Was it a response to it? Was it a sort of response to that when they became aware that the agro sector has done this to the water supply of the planet and that the planet can't replenish it? Did they just sort of see? Did they? This didn't all happen at once. I mean, something comes before something else. Did they perceive that they were responding to a need that had emerged that was like out of their hands? Because that's how they see the way they operate. You can't. It's simply naive and childish to say like, well, people are greedy or something. No, 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 no. I mean, human nature has always been evil, and greed is around. But that this type of behavior with regard to the disregard for human life and like coming up with ways to take the tragedy of the death of the planet and sort of like turn it into a big sort of like we're trade futures in water and privatize it and now it's a commodity and like did they doing all this? Did they do this because they perceived like that they at one time didn't? It wasn't happening, and then it was like, oh, well, look at that. Like, partly because they're like a lot of them in Vivendi. Like, did they see that there's an American? Like, oh, look at that America and their weird, like, creepy, evil, theories have developed something where their economy shut down, but they're subsidizing this gigantic state, agro business, doing it. See, this is the thing too. When people see I see, they're killing people all over the place to make way for the products of this new type of capital formation. And part of what it's doing is it's using up water so much faster than the hydrological cycle of the planet can replace it. That there's a nightmare catastrophe of death and death of thirst, and therefore like we come in to handle it. And that was the sort of mentality that allowed for like privatizing it, trading it as a commodity, and buying and selling water futures. Because you can't. People aren't that evil. It was I'm saying like, but the water, the water is being depleted at that rate that like we're all gonna die together. Actually, is the thing, because it's one planet and water. None of us can live without. You can live without food, probably, but I'm saying no one can live without water. So in other words, when this thing that's based here is my point. That's based here. That started operating the way it did, and the way it made way for its products was like murdering people in parts of the global south who wouldn't open their markets. And that's what we're doing here. Did they sort of like the Vivendi executives are like, oh, this is fascinating. Like America and their like their genocidal, sort of like way. They're killing people all over the place to make way for some new kind of capital formation that's based there. And what it's doing is so demented. It's actually like the whole global south is going to die of thirst. Like perhaps we could step in and like. We can handle this for them. So we don't. They have to then make the loan conditionalities. They have to privatize the water. If they have enough of it, we'll handle that. And then between each other, what would you like? Oh, we can actually trade it as a commodity. Now it's being depleted that fast. We'll trade water futures. It'll be as valuable as oil as time goes on. Like, did they respond to what we created? Is my question. Because a lot of those water, what's in the water sector, like I said, it's in France, and I think the two big ones are in France. They respond to something that we created, and because the way we created it is we dismantled our own economy. No, we didn't do it. But the economy gets shut down, doing all that financial activity and murdering people all over South America to make way for the products of the agro sector here that we pay for. When they saw that behavior and learned of what it's doing to our earth, did they sort of, is that the thinking? Like, well, no one else can solve this. So we'll do all these things, and that's why they don't think much of, like, well, we go tell the IMF to, the loan condition as if to privatize it. Otherwise, we won't be able to handle. That's the only way we can step in, make them privatize it, and then we'll come in. But then naturally, there's a whole bunch of other things we'll do because it's now valuable, because it's that limited. So we can trade it and we can do this. But the reason they appear to have no conscience is they were responding to something created by, their favorite genocidal maniac, and like this new thing they're doing. Like, but they don't see themselves as doing anything sort of evil because this was already happening, and they just stepped in and said, well, how else are they going to solve it? They have no solution. We're all going to die together, but we have we're in the sector that could deal with this if they want to make it so that part of the conditions of the loans is that they privatize the water. Then we could come in and do business and not their conscience is clean because they wouldn't have done something like this. Is that to the planet or to human beings? I mean, is that what the thinking is in the water sector? I'm just asking.